And for more on the report, we're joined by Hillary Margolis. She's the author of the report and researcher for Human Rights Watch. Hillary, this is a 47-page report. We're hearing women arrested, detained, physically abused, harassed, and tortured. How can this be happening?
Well, as we know, this has been actually a hallmark of this conflict. It isn't just women, it's men as well who are facing arbitrary arrest and detention, torture, and physical abuse. But part of what we want to show is that women also are quite active in Syrian communities. They're activists, they're humanitarian aid providers, they're caretakers and heads of households, and they are also at risk. And so they are experiencing all of these kinds of abuses just like their male counterparts. And they're also facing, in some areas, discriminatory restrictions being put in place by particular groups such as ISIS and Jabhat al-Nusra. And they face as well a lot of responsibilities that are increasing and roles that are changing because of the conflict.
So who is at the greatest risk of torture, detention, abuse?
In particular instances of torture, detention, and abuse, torture and detention would certainly be activists and humanitarian aid providers. We interviewed numerous women who are providing aid to other Syrian civilians and who are certainly at risk, often have been harassed, arbitrarily detained, sometimes tortured or otherwise abused, and also peaceful activists.
So who does this report blame? Does it blame the Syrian government? Does it blame opposition forces, rebels? Who's to blame?
Well, in terms of who's committing the abuses, at this point, we do have documentation of abuses committed by all sides to the conflict. So that includes government forces, pro-government militias, and some armed opposition groups. And so, there's certainly, unfortunately, enough blame to go around. I think what's also important to note is that there is some responsibility on the part of the international community, and we need to keep pushing for the international community, for the UN Security Council and others, to ask for accountability and demand accountability in Syria for the atrocities that are happening. And that includes a referral to the International Criminal Court, as well as potentially other mechanisms for justice.
You guys profiled 17 women in this report. Who are these women?
These women are a mix of, they're all, civilian women, all from various parts of Syria, different governorates in Syria. All are now living as refugees in Turkey, often because of serious threats to their own personal safety and well-being. Some are, as I was talking about earlier, activists and women who are providing humanitarian aid and assisting other Syrians. Some are also women who've been affected by the conflict in other ways, such as through indiscriminate attacks on civilians, barrel bombings and shelling and the like. So women who now are widows, who have lost children, who have lost family members, who have family members in detention. And in many cases, these women have, they're now faced with becoming not just full-time caretakers, but often also primary providers for their families, whether inside Syria or in a refugee context.
All right, thank you so much. Heartbreaking details in this report. Hillary Margolis, thanks again.